live stream the meeting slowly. Okay, this needs to get away. Done redirecting to YouTube. I think we are live.
It's not showing up on the link though, or not yet as of now.
No, I think it's showing up on my link.
Oh, okay, cool.
With the usual solid delay, like you have to live your past and present at the same time. I think maybe we should just share the screen. Right?
मेरे को तो नहीं दिख रहा है अभी YouTube पे.
कोई बात नहीं, तो अभी मत बोलो क्योंकि ये सीधे वहां जा रहा है एंड थोड़ा सा डिले आएगा, ठीक है? तो आने देते हैं. I'm just going to share the screen.
Is it visible for everyone? Surabhi, from your side, did you check?
Say it again.
Did you check if the link is visible for everyone?
It is public.
It is public. Okay. Cool.
So now I'm going to this and this. So Arushi, you will have to let us know when can we start.
I am not able to see the YouTube live wala thing, so I think we can start.
Okay. तो वेट कर लेते हैं थोड़ा सा. I'm gonna just check it on my phone. वो कैसा दिख रहा है, ठीक है?
Sure.
I think now I get it why people. Okay, so it is saying the live event will begin in a few moments. जबकि यहाँ पे मुझे live दिखा रहा है ये.
Yeah, even I can't see at my end. It's still showing the same rotating page.
So 19 waiting, 22 waiting. Okay, I don't know what's happening. So let me just figure this out. Stop share. Okay. So it is live. It's live on YouTube. View on YouTube.
Is the link not the same link?
It's actually showing to me right now. Could be, like, let's see. Yeah, I think there is a difference, the change in link. But abhi yahan pe log hai, it's saying, you know, people are waiting. Oh, I think yahan nahi dikha raha hai, people are waiting. Yeah, I think the link is different. Okay.
So when you scheduled the meeting, you were able to add this link, right?
Say it again.
So remember yesterday when we were scheduling the meeting, you were able to add this link, right? The current link.
Yeah.
Don't know why it's not.
Maybe I'll just drop a line to everyone again saying that, hey, you know, maybe join this one. This is bad. Never mind. So I can see it. I don't know what's happening. Like you guys
maybe
can't
it's a
see
different
it.
link.
हाँ मैं वही कर रही हूँ रुको. Hold on. Okay. So, okay, can you finally give me a link that I should send to people? So I should live on YouTube, view, copy streaming link, copied, and now I'm sending that to you. Okay.
Yeah.
I think both of you should see if you can see it. And I'm just seeing, I'm going to just send an email to everyone. Okay, I'm just gonna see it. So I should live on YouTube, view, copy streaming link, copied, and now I'm sending that to you. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Someone has to stop doing their. Usko mute kar do.
Yep, I did.
Okay.
This is working.
Okay, so that I need to send to everyone. Okay, block your calendars, reply all. Oh God. Hi everyone. Seems there's a glitch. This link. Seems there's a glitch. Okay.
Do you want to go on mute, Surabhi, because all of this is also going live?
Okay, Arushi, can you see people now there by any chance? I think I should just.
It's just you and Anusha.
Headline के नीचे लिखा होगा कहीं पे. How many people waiting?
It's showing 2 people watching now, so I think it's just us.
Yeah.
First YouTube live, you're allowed to make mistake. Major update. Major update. Second which live.
We have a comment from Kanika Prajapat 23 there.
Perfect. So that means this is out somewhere. Okay. Mail में तो चला गया है.
The link you sent on Gmail.
Should we reply to Kanika saying that this is
I'm just replying.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh, come on. Okay, so there are 11 people on this one. And if people are listening, I think, we kind of messed up. We are going to take another 2-3 minutes and start. A wrong link was sent out to people, and I think they're waiting on a different YouTube live. So yeah, just give us another 5 minutes and we will definitely start the presentation then. Anusha, should we start? What do you say?
Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay, so how many people are you seeing on YouTube Live now?
I think about 22 people.
No,
so I
is
think
this on the active link? Is this on the active link?
Yes, that's right. 22 people watching now.
Oh, we have enough audience, I guess, to listen to us. And okay, so welcome everyone. If you can't hear me or if there are any more glitches, please let us know in the comment section on the YouTube Live. And I hope you're seeing us and you're listening to us. Well, this began on a very rocky step forward. We sent out a wrong link, but now we're here. So welcome to our 4th town hall. And this town hall, we are discussing our experience with the recent crowdfunding campaign. And we do this town hall almost every month since our inception, just been 4 months. And for people who are new here, just want to introduce Sajhe Sapne and want to introduce what we do in these town halls. Sajhe Sapne is a young nonprofit which is working towards upskilling and guaranteeing modern jobs to young women in villages. We just started our first professional training course in management. It's a year-long, no-fee course for women in villages. We're very young, just 4 months old. We're a women-led organization, and the reason why we do these town halls is to just connect with the broader nonprofit sector, connect with people who are thinking about similar issues as us. In this town hall, the reason why we are discussing our insights or confidently telling that what could work in designing a good campaign is because we recently luckily had a good success with a campaign that we had launched before Diwali. And this is how it looked for us. So I think in 4 days, we ended up raising 25 lakh rupees, which was our target. We had around 800 supporters. It shows 1,600 supporters on the website, on the platform. That's primarily because it counts every matching donation done by the platform and impact partners as a unique donor. So essentially, there were around 800 supporters. This had zero marketing budget because we really don't have money. That's the reason we're doing crowdfunding. So it was zero marketing budget, and our the donation ticket size ranged from as small as rupees 10 to a lakh rupees. And this is in this particular town hall, the agenda is to address some of your questions that a lot of people had filled in the sign up form. So the 4 key categories of questions that we have are: one is just around the journal learnings around crowdfunding. So what are the basics? What are the donor profiles like? What are the challenges and best practices? Of course, on the promotional tips, how do you mobilize resources at scale? What component of creativity plays in driving a campaign like this? What are the key motivators for donations? And planning, content, and logistics, which platform, when to launch, how to launch. And of course, some people have also asked us about our team and what are our future plans. So we will be addressing most of these questions. In case some of your questions are unaddressed, we will be taking them at the end of once Anusha and I are done. That also brings me to a point that I'm Surbhi Yadav. I didn't introduce myself in the beginning, and I am founder of Sajhe Sapne. And today, Anusha has also joined me in this call. She's the one who designed the campaign for us, and she's one of our very dedicated volunteers joining us from San Francisco. And it's 4 a.m. over there. So both of us are pretty sleep deprived in this presentation. One of the questions that I'm definitely going to begin with, this question someone had posted, what is your magic ingredient? Well, there is, of course, a component of luck, but I think it also had us showing up with a lot of enthusiasm to seize it, and when we didn't see it, to create it. And if essentially when you're doing crowdfunding, you're asking someone to make a donation, right? So you're not just asking someone to, like, click, comment, and subscribe. You're asking someone to actually take out money from their pocket and trust you and hand it over to you. So you're making a relationship there, a meaningful relationship there, which has a transaction involved in it. So what makes a good relationship? Well, this is where the luck component comes in. You would believe that a good relationship is made when right people meet at the right time and do the right action, right? In this, the whole packaging that we think, the learning for us has been that there are ways in which you can mobilize, amplify, cultivate right networks of people. There are ways in which you can be really attentive about what is the right moment, and when the moment arises, how to actually respond to it. So have that capacity of responding to that, excuse me, to right moment, so that it expands. And then, of course, what do you do when these two scenarios are created? What kind of action-oriented strategies should you have? What kind of resources should you have to be able to do right action? So this is sort of a power pack summary of what worked for us, which of course we're going to go in more detail. I'm going to hand it over to Anusha now. She's going to take us to the whole planning and designing. Anusha, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Surbhi. Hey, everyone. I'm Anusha Sekhar. I'm actually a volunteer for Sajhe Sapne. The slide that you see here is actually an expectations versus reality slide. I'm sure you've seen a lot of internet memes where reality is a pretty big disappointment when it comes to expectations. But in our case, it is actually the opposite. So our goal was to achieve our 25 lakh goal in 60 days, whereas we ended up getting it in 4 days. So how did this happen? So it'll be next slide. So what I'm going to walk you through in this section is primarily our planning process. So from the time we decided to, do our crowdfunding till our actual campaign launch, it took us about 6 weeks. There were 3 main phases: target setting, logistics, and content development. And my goal is to walk you through each of these phases. So the first step is target setting. This actually took us about a week. And when I say 1 week, this is in volunteer time. So, I also have a full-time job, and, I could spend maybe about like 5 to 7 hours working on this. So if you do have someone thinking about crowdfunding full-time, I'm sure this can, be brought down to about a day's worth of work. Next slide. Target setting was actually a very interesting exercise for us to go through. This really helps determine, what is your organization's wealth and how do you think about money. The easy way to get to how much money do you raise is obviously thinking about your budget, right? So how much money do you need to achieve whatever goal? How much money do you have, and what the gap is? What we also did was we did a quick research on crowdfunding platforms, on educator-related fundraisers to see, how they're performing against their target. And we noticed they only achieve about 2/3 of their target. Now, with this metric, you can't just go ahead and add 1/3 of your budget and say, this is going to be my crowdfunding target. You also need to strike the right balance, right? How do you think about, okay, if I do get some extra money, how will I use it, right? You need to have a clear plan for it and put it across. Otherwise, people, wouldn't trust you with their money. So once we finished target setting, our next step was logistics. Again, this took us about a week, but if you have someone dedicated, this could probably be brought down to about 2 days worth of work, I would say. Next slide. We started with, actually creating a tracker. This was very helpful to, list out the tasks, understand who owns what, and also like track our progress, right? This was very helpful in coordinating, and primarily because, I was based in the US and, Surbi and team are in India. We really needed like a very good way to plan and coordinate. The first step here is determining your launch date. In our case, we wanted to find an occasion or a time where we could encourage people to give. And in our case, it happened to be Diwali. And once we decided that, hey, we are launching our campaign before Diwali, we put a stake in the ground saying, okay, this is our launch date. And from there, we work backwards and figure out what are the tasks that we need to achieve that. Apart from, like outlining tasks and putting it in the tracker, we also had these recurring meetings. So every week, everyone, we had like a 1-hour meeting. Everyone knew what they had to deliver. And then we would come to that meeting, talk about, what needs to get done and, do some unblocking. Next slide. So once you've figured out this is your general plan, the next step is to identify which platform you're going to use to host your campaign. One of the most important things that everyone thinks of is platform fees or payment gateway fees, and that was definitely a pretty important criteria for us in determining which platform to choose. But what really made us pick Milap, who was our campaign partner, was their customer service. Usually we only think about the quantitative aspect of things, but the qualitative aspect is equally important, especially once we launched the campaign. The customer service came in really handy. We had a campaign manager who was very attentive, responsive, almost 24/7. And that was critical for us, because we had to raise money in 4 days. This is also a time where it's good to think about documentation, because each platform has different documentation requirements, and they need different documents for vetting your campaign before they launch it. So it's important to gather this information up front so you can plan for it. Next slide. Yeah. So last but not the least, in the behind the scenes section is content development. This is where we spent bulk of our time, and intentionally so, because this is basically the meat of your campaign. Next slide. So the first step on, when it comes to content development that we realized is our positioning. Because once you determine what your positioning is, that basically dictates or sets the tone for all the other content that you're going to create, around your campaign. So in our case, we were very clear that our focus was not going to be on the pain of the girls, but on their potential. So we were like, hey, no sympathy minting. That was one key principle. The other key principle was simple storytelling. It's very easy to fill your content up with jargon, which just does not connect with any audience whatsoever. Our goal was to make it so simple that anyone that read our story would immediately get it. The next thing that we spent our time on was actually titles, hashtags. These seemingly unimportant specifics are actually very critical, because these are the most visible aspects of your campaign. And if you think about it, a lot of people don't necessarily go and read the story. All they see is a title, and then if it doesn't connect, they just move on. So we spent a lot of time sourcing this from within the team. We did a vote within the team. We also shared it with, some key people that we work with, our friends, to get some feedback on what really works, what really sticks. And finally, the story. This is the most important part of your campaign. So can you go back to the previous slide? So this is the crux of your campaign. In our case, I think we went through about 4 different drafts. I have screenshots of 3 here. The reason we had to go through so many drafts is because, one, we started with some content, but to simplify content, it actually takes time. It takes multiple iterations. It takes a lot of feedback back and forth. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it actually takes so much time to build clean, simple content for your story to be compelling. So I would say if you had to pick one place to spend your time, spend it here. Next slide. And last but not the least, on the content side, a video is very important. We actually didn't necessarily plan for it a lot in advance. It was almost like an afterthought for us. And if there's anything that we learned from this, we should actually build more time into, putting the video together. In terms of how we thought about the story, we took a very simple approach. what is the problem, what is the solution, and what is the help that we need from the people. And our goal was not to voice, the pain for the girls. Instead, we wanted them to talk about what their problems were, to make it, more realistic, to actually connect with the audience. Aside from, getting the main content ready, you also need to think about what sort of audio do we need, what sort of images, what sort of text, because all of these little aspects actually, is what these are the things that make your campaign stand out. In our case, we actually got lucky. We got Kamala Didi to, write a poem for us. And she, in fact, I think sent us about 3 recordings in a short span of a day or so. So we were very lucky, but I think this is another very critical step in getting all the right ingredients. And finally, editing. This is where the magic happens. This is where you take all of the different pieces that you've created and put the puzzle together. And I think if you need to build in some time so you can try different things, see what works best, get some feedback from people before you can, actually go ahead and launch it. So now that we have our target setting ready, our logistics ready, and our content ready to go, we've actually, ready to go ahead and launch the campaign. And this is where Surabhi comes in. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Surabhi, to talk about campaign execution.
Thank you. I also realized that we have people who probably might not know about our campaign. So I think, of course, this conversation, the town hall conversation, began with, that event happened because people who had been following our campaign. So just for the people who are joining us for the first time and who don't know much about Sajhe, this campaign was for our first program, which I mentioned that we just launched a 1-year-long no fee management program. And we're doing this program. The first cohort that we have is young women from Musahar community in villages of Bihar. And we needed the seed money to get that program going. So that is the context of what was this campaign for. Okay, so I'm going to dig deeper into the magic ingredient, right? It's time to unpack that. What does that look like in terms of strategy, and what does it look like in terms of insight? So in this section, while we're going to talk about strategy, I'm also going to pull out anecdotes from what was happening in terms of action. How does the strategy translate into our key work that we did? So for right people, it began from internally, right? You have your team, you have your volunteers, and each and every person needed to be on board with this because, well, that was our first point of expanding the network. Once your team and volunteers are completely on board, you move on to tapping into your existing network. So every person goes to their first degree circle, and then you extend this existing network. So first degree of your first degree circle, and then you create a new network. So I'm going to talk about the strategies that we use for each one of these. Beginning with team and volunteers. Well, these are the people who are going to be the face of the campaign, right? Each person, Anusha, I, other people, everyone is going to go to their friends, family, and going to pitch us. For you to pitch in a very convincing way, you need to be very clear why this money is for, and why do you deserve this money, and why do we deserve this money as an organization. And I think it was important to have that discussion, because unless you don't have that conviction, you're not going to have a confident pitch. So before the campaign launch, we had a team call. We actually discussed this question, that why do you think Sajhe deserves this money? And I think facilitating this discussion is also very important, because we're so wired to talk about the right things. So everyone did, the first round of answers were, well, this is an important cause, everyone connects with this cause, and that's the reason they're working for Sajhe. But I think, again, I had to dig deeper, or I had to push them to go further and ask, the cause is great, but why do you think this organization deserves this money? There are many people who are working for similar causes, and you need to identify what is it about Sajhe and what is it about you that people are going to give money for. And I think over that discussion, what the anchor for us in that clarity was that, hey, we've been just 4 months old. Within that 4 months, we have been able to do some really good things. We've been able to design our first program. We've been able to launch our pilot. We've been able to launch a podcast. We have really trusted partners on board, and we have a fantastic all-women team. So if this is how much we can do in 4 months without enough monetary support, imagine how much we'll be able to do once we have the right kind of support. And I think this was the clarity and conviction that everyone held on to when they reached out to their people. Once you have the clarity part covered, I think the next problem is the inhibition of asking money. And I think, unfortunately, in our society, money equals social status, social status equal to our self-worth. So asking for money is considered shameful. Sometimes you have a lot of inhibition around what would happen and how you would be judged. And I think it was important for us to address this head on as well. So we made everyone list down their inhibition and fear of rejection and judgment. The other two things, we really wanted to do it, we couldn't because of the short time, but the plan was to reflect on your own relationship with the money and just keep reflecting on what does it mean for your self-worth. One reminder that it was important to give everyone that when there is a transaction, when someone is being helpful to you, it's not just a one-sided transaction. Being generous makes both the giver and the receiver richer, right? So there is something for a person to be helpful as well in that transaction. And that, I think, remembering that is important. It makes it easier to ask for money. So this is a snapshot of how these strategies look like in action. So this was the agenda that I had sent out for pre-launch meeting. Everyone was supposed to think about the target money that they feel comfortable raising, 5 people that they would reach out, 5 groups that they would reach out, ways to get out of your comfort zone, and ways for team for fundraising. And I have put this screenshot, which was like 2 days after the first meeting, and everyone was simply, putting out a major request. Everyone was calling a lot of people, and I was just seeing the transition that once you have your clarity of thought, once you have reflected on your own fears, you actually get over it and you become really comfortable in asking for money. And that's what actually happened. I think this is what the comment I had made, that initially everyone was saying that it's going to be very weird to ask, but by the end everyone was just yelling on top of their voices to get the money. And this also brings me to the point of what makes a good pitch, right? Because that's the thing, that's your entry point in the conversation. As Anusha has already emphasized, no jargon. Like, I think as development professionals, it's so easy to get sucked into the big words, the things that we keep writing in reports, and the things that we keep hearing on social media, especially when there are discussions around social issues, but no jargon. Just keep it very simple and keep it very clear. And I think it reflects your clarity about the work when you keep it jargon free. So your pitch was supposed to be very simple and conversational for people who are not skeptics, people who are already thinking about these causes and who just need a little convincing. You need to show up with clarity of thought and why this matters to you and why this matters for the organization. And most likely they will probably listen to you and might take an action. For people who are skeptics, and there are many, right? I think fundraising in nonprofit sector especially is judged with a lot of doubt and skepticism around whether these funds will be used properly or not. And for all reasonable reasons, there is no point in discarding those doubts and judgments. Instead of offering justifications, just offer solutions. So in our case, the way we offered that solution was we made it very clear that there are going to be regular updates. You're going to have very transparent track recorder of how the organization is growing and how are all our students growing. And doing these town halls is part of keeping that transparency. So once the pitch was done, once the team was on board and everyone had started, the next thing is tapping into our existing network. So each team member and each volunteer had a specific target. Because if you keep it vague, it's hard to know what you're racing against, and it's hard to decide the level of effort that you need to put in. So everyone had a target, and everyone had a minimum target. Once you have the target, the script is pretty clear: call, text, follow up, post on social media, and repeat. And I think the whole team and the whole volunteers, everyone came together in this frenzy of mass calling, mass texting, following up, coming back to the group, sharing what, how are they feeling. But this was the key ingredient. And this is important because while the outcome shows on social media, but all the work actually happens on phone and calls and messaging. And that's an important thing to remember about crowdfunding. Again, the pitch was simple and clear. Existing network also helped us, not just monetarily, but also helped us in many other ways. So they offered their skills for content generation, gave really thoughtful and personal shout outs. Like this was a snapshot of Kamladi sending me a poem that she had written in the morning and at midnight, and she did a couple of drafts. And again, I think that I bring it out here, just reminding people that people in general are very generous. All you need is to create that space of clarity of thought, invite them in, and then make a very clear ask. So this was our existing network strategies. Moving on to expanding the radius further, right? Like, how do you extend this network? So for every volunteer or every team member, all of us asked 3 of our close friends to reach out to 3 of their close friends. Like, literally make them write down the names. Who are they going to reach out? What is they going to pitch be? And what is the follow-up that they're going to do? Basically, what you just learned, you have to transfer it to 3 more people. And again, reminding this, that you don't need to copy paste a message. Tell people, why do you think that this is important? Because people are not always giving for the cause. People are also giving money to you. So this part plays a role. I think one big thing that helped us in extending network was creating a lot of fundraising champions. So for example, a lot of people, when they read about the work, they messages saying that, hey, we really want to help. We really want to help. What can we do? When they ask this question to you, what is it that can we do? Do you have a set of instructions that you can give them, that you can hand over to them, that can actually help them take the action? I'm just going to give me a moment, I think. Okay. So Anusha and Arushi, in case there is a trouble, just interrupt me, okay? Because I'm unable to see the chats, okay?
Yeah, I think we're fine so far.
Okay, good, got it. So for you to inspire people to become fundraising champions, one thing you also need to do is help them understand their strength when it comes to pitching. Not everyone is an extrovert. Not everyone enjoys calling people. So what is it that they're good at that can be used for their fundraising abilities? For example, whenever anyone messaged me saying that, hey, tell me, I would love to support you more. And I think for me, the agenda was very clear that if you really want to help us, right now, crowdfunding is a big thing for us. Message 5 closest people, ask them to donate, write a personal message instead of a generic one on social network, why you believe in this cause, and follow up with these people. And I think for me, for not just me, I think for the team, I think this was clear that any fundraising champion who reached back to us with a question, we knew this person is in, and we actually followed up with this person properly. And I think this necessarily doesn't mean that every fundraising champion is going to be able to raise some money, but it just means that they're excited about this. And if they are excited about it, you better, be with them and they're excited about it, and help them grow that excitement, I guess. So this was on the extended network. Oh yeah, this thing also helped us. I think we created a tracker listing down everyone's extended network. I think you would be surprised how many people and how much capital do you have in your first and second degree social circle. So this is the list that Anusha had put together. You have influencers, you have WhatsApp, you have Facebook groups. Like, there are multiple things that are there in your network. And you miss it out because it's not always in front of you. So might as well put it on the list and make it in front of you, make a goal around it, and plan around it. Another thing that also helped in extending network is individual fundraising champions inspiring other champions. So for example, this is one of our team members. She had been doing major pitching, right? And her milk seller donated us 5,000 rupees. And she managed to convey this to everyone else in her circle. So that got her mother very excited. And then the mother, auntie helped us raise around like 1 lakh or more than 1 lakh rupees through her network. So just genuinely see what is that excitement moment for people and be present, and then take that moment forward. Like, that's what, like, that presence of mind is what I think has really helped us. Then the last bit was creating new network, right? Like, once you have exhausted your first degree and first of your first degree and second degree, how do you create new network? And the 4 channels through which we created new network was, one, any known influencer. This doesn't mean you have to be best buddies with them, but if they know of you, you know of them, can you have a real and genuine conversation with them? And when we reached out to a couple of such influencers in our circle, we didn't reach out by saying that, hey, donate to us, or hey, give us a shout out. We said, we give us a fair chance to pitch it to you, and then you decide what you want to do. And I think in most cases, I think we really received a very positive response. And it is really helpful if you can identify influencers who already are thinking about the cause that you're working for. So that really helps. Cold messaging really helped. Some of our team members were really disappointed by their friend circle and the response that they got from their friend circle. So they started reaching out and cold emailing their pitch to people whose work that they admired, or the celebrities whose work they admired. So cold messaging actually got us, either shout outs or some money. Proactive updates on social media definitely creates that ripple effect. You tag a couple of your people, in, even if they're small influencers of 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, it's definitely worth it, because those intimate circle gets you forward. In creating new network, I do want to mention that your existing reputation does play a pivotal role. I think how much communication do you do about your work, your identity, your interest out there in the world, sort of creates this setting where people can just be part of your story that they're already familiar with. In our case, I think my work as a in gender space, or my work in rural development space, and a couple of other projects which have been public, really helped in connecting with some of new influencers. So yeah, I think it is worthwhile to actually actively communicate about your work to people on a regular basis. So again, these are the couple of anecdotes. This was a cold email that one of our team members had sent out to an influencer, and he said no for shout out or spreading it in his circle, but he actually donated 50,000 rupees, which is fantastic. Here's another example of the message that I had sent to someone who knows of me, and the pitch was very simple. I know he works in this sector. I know he knows about us. And if he feels for it, he's going to give us a shout out. And he did. I think he actually got us around more than 2 lakh rupees. Instagram influencers play a key role in getting small ticket, large volume donations, and especially if their pitch is not given to them by us. It's the pitch that they are writing. Again, going back to the same thing, why do you think you believe in this cause, right? So this is Rega's post. She did a series of posts, and she has like 200,000 or more actually of followers. And she wrote a lot of her opinions, why she thinks this particular campaign makes sense to her. And I think that really got us large volume of small ticket donations. Important to remember that if you're choosing young Instagram influencers, you're going to get small ticket side donation, because the crowd is millennial crowd. Most likely they're not very much into further in their career trajectories to have a lot of capital to give. But on the other hand, Twitter, that got us a lot of big ticket donations. We had a very, very dedicated supporter, Dushyant, who, again, I think we met him he got to know us about us through a second degree circle. And the person who introduced about us to them, they really liked our work, and they really liked the sincerity with which we're showing up. And he ended up leading a massive Twitter storm on Twitter, getting a lot of attention from other influencers. So influencers inspiring other influencers creates a big role. So if you know even one influencer, and if you can convince them to give a shout out, can you also convince them to reach out to other influencers? Because you might not have a network of active influencers, but influencers definitely have that. So putting this as a suggestion in front of people really helps. So Dushyant really created a storm on Twitter, which really helped us. So when you do all of that networking, all of that network building, all of that talking, this is the kind of final donor distribution that looked for us. I think almost 50% of this came from our first degree circle, but the rest of it did come from beyond first degree. And it's so easy to feel hopeless when you keep posting stuff and you think, who's gonna anyway give? Like, there are 100 such campaigns going on. But I mean, in our opinion, in our experience, I think it really works. The more you put yourself out there, the more attention you actually get. Just in terms of donor profile, 5K to 10K was our highest contribution. Like, that bracket got us the highest contribution in terms of money. Matching, of course, also had a very substantial contribution. From strangers, mostly we got less than 2,000 rupees, which was expected. Moving on to right time. So the key questions probably you need to ask yourself, is crowdfunding for you? And if yes, when is the right time? And crowdfunding doesn't always serve all the fundraising purposes. It has to be very specific, and we're going to get into that. What is the promising launch time, length time, and how do you preserve the momentum? So just talking about this. So crowdfunding, okay, it is going to take a lot of your resources. It is most likely is going to consume a good chunk of your team's bandwidth. So are you ready to dedicate that kind of bandwidth now? And I think for us, that answer was very clear, because, well, if we didn't get the money, probably there wouldn't be a team, because that literally was a critical urgency, that we couldn't keep our full-time people because we didn't have funds to support the salary. So it is going to require dedicated resources. So just ask yourself a question: do you have that kind of mind space and bandwidth to let go everything else in your work and actually fundraise? It has to be need-based priority. What is it this money going to be used for? Is whatever it is being used for very critical to your operations? And I think for us, since we are a very young nonprofit, and for any young enterprise, I think it becomes a very chicken and egg problem for fundraise. Like when we were applying to a couple of grants, they asked us for proof of concept, and for proof of concept, we needed money. And I think for us, it was very clear the moment there was this one grant that I was expecting that we would definitely get, and we didn't get it. And I think that's when I think Anusha also showed up at the right time. And I think it was just clear that there is no other way for us but to push it for crowdfunding. And then it has to be very outcome oriented. Even if your goals or outcomes are vague, are you being transparent about it to people? Like, for example, you could be doing an experimentation in your nonprofit, or you could be doing an exploration in your nonprofit, or you could be, as an entrepreneur, as a young entrepreneur, or as you're just doing an exploration for the first year. But the problem of specificity is not that your goal is vague. The problem comes when you're not being transparent about it, or you're not being informed about its vagueness. So just be very communicative about and specific about what is it this money is going to be used for. And even if the outcome is vague, just put it out there. Just let your donor know that you're aware that this is vague, and that's why you need money, so that you can concretize it. So these are few things you need to think about when you're thinking about whether crowdfunding is for you or not. What is a lucky launch time? Anusha has already touched upon that, but few factors that make favorable launch week. Either it has to be a festival season or a festive season where, giving and the conversation around giving is easy to do. Are there any cause specific days, special days, observation days that can be, it's easier to, if there is already a broader conversation happening about a cause, then it's easier to introduce that, hey, in terms of action, this is what we are doing. Would you want to support it? Of course, it could be personal and organization special days, again, emphasizing the point that your personal story and personal connect with the action that you're doing really pulls people in. And weekends, in case you don't have any of these big things, I think weekends are another time that actually can get you a rise in attention. The biggest learning, I think, what we have about this crowdfunding is it's all about the pace. So it is not a marathon, it is a sprint. And once you get the speed, you cannot let it go, because that speed is going to get you another speed. And I think Anusha and I have spent a lot of calls talking about like planning a slump. Like we used to discuss, when are we going to hit the slump? And when that slump comes, what are we going to do? But fortunately, we didn't hit a slump. But I think knowing when that pace is going to happen and being completely ready that when that pace comes, I'm not going to let it go, and I'm going to give all my 100%. So for us, second day was that. I think first day when we launched it, we made a lot of calls. We got some seeding donations that we had already committed by some people. And then the Twitter storm began. And I think the moment a couple of celebrities retweeted it, we knew that this is it. So we forgot about the 2-month strategy. Everything was condensed on that particular day. So making sure when that pace happens, and it will happen, like there are going to be moments of speed, high speed, or there are going to be moments of high incoming donations, just seize on that. Like don't let it go, don't take it lightly. So this is how it looked for us. I think there was no slump ever. It just kept increasing. Some of the key on-spot decisions that helped us condense this 2 months plan into 4 days was just noticing small things. So for example, on our second day, we got a couple of people to match our donations, that they committed that, hey, if you get 100 rupees, I'm going to add 5 to that, 5% matching. And they didn't keep an upper limit on matching amount. What they kept an upper limit was a time. So they said, in next 24 hours, whatever you generate, we are going to match it. I think that was a big, again, us, all the team holding tight on it, that if they're saying in next 24 hours, if we raise 15 lakhs, 5% of 15 lakh is fantastic. So we just held tight on that, no upper limit for matching. I think that became a big driver for us to, give 100% on that particular day. And it showed. I think it gave us really good outcomes. Changing the default ticket size on your fundraising platform, for us, Milap had put in 2,500, and I noticed that 2,500 was a frequent ticket that was coming to us. And so we just made a trial that, okay, let's make it 5,000. And again, that's where I think Milap's customer service really came handy, because it was at, I think, 10 p.m. when I called him and I said, can we just make it 5,000 and see what happens? And it was just, again, so now we had more 5,000 coming in, more 3,000s coming in. So just being aware of these little things while they're happening and then tapping into them. Timely initiation of matching. Earlier, we had decided that the matching is going to begin in third day when we're going to have enough momentum, but the momentum began right at the end of first day. And again, made a call to customer manager from Milap at night, and I asked him to start that matching right away. So being aware of that, and then matching became a big leverage for getting more donations. And then not holding tight on your existing strategy, because Anusha and I and every others as well, actually, we were thinking about what all needs to happen in next 2 months. But I think it's important to let it go when the time comes. So I think we just forgot about the 2-month strategy the moment we saw high pace. That takes us to last point around right action. Once you have the timing sorted and people sorted, what all can you do to actually get the real money? Well, don't impose, but actually inspire and be confident when you're doing that. Matching donations were an extremely important leverage. Be very, very, very proactive about giving updates to people, what is happening, involve them in the storytelling, involve them in the process, and people love it. And I think it's because of their attention why I think we were able to be what we were able to be. And I think be genuine in it. Like, don't do it for the sake of doing it, because if you are excited, like I remember, not just I think, I'm sure my team remembers that too, that I would wake up with messages from my friends and acquaintances counting the number for us, that, hey Surbi, we have reached 10 lakh now, or hey Surbi, we have reached 5 lakh now. And I think if you can connect with the process so much, I think their excitement got me very excited, and I would send their messages to the team and the team would get very excited. And I think it just became a vicious cycle of being excited together. And of course, I think there has to be a very gentle, respectful wrap up. There has to be post-campaign care. And so I'm just going to talk about all of this. So when you're saying you're supposed to inspire and not impose, your narrative sets everything for that. And Anusha already mentioned that your tone of messaging will be your tone of every little thing you do in the whole campaign. So get clarity on that. Spend a lot of time. How do you feel about this cause? How do you feel about this work? What is your real narrative? And don't talk about what people want to hear, because it is going to hit a slump in terms of sounding inauthentic. Ask yourself, what does it mean for you? And I think people will get excited seeing your excitement about it. So for us, again, it was no sympathy minting, but genuine invitation to resonate with our passion. Like, I genuinely feel the girls who are with us, they're fantastic. If they have so much problem and they're still dreaming big, there's something there, right? And I think we need to focus on that. So we sent out a lot of content around why we think we deserve funds, and being very clear about it so that people can also see the clarity in giving. Again, focusing on the potential, not on problem, and how, and think of people as your partners and not as your saviors. And that shows in the way you talk. So even when they reject, it doesn't hit you bad, because it's not that they're rejecting you personally, or they're rejecting you because they think they're superior than you. They're rejecting you because, well, they can't be part of this right now, and that's fine. So like the way this shows in our title, for example, we're focusing on career dreams, and of course there is the component of that it is in a difficult place. There were a lot of other things probably that could have made cut into this headline. Like the community of girls is coming from a Mahadalit community. They're extremely poor. They're also extremely devoid of any kind of opportunity, and there's intense social discrimination, but none of that made it at least in the headline. For us, I think it was very clear that career dreams is what we're going to focus on. I think your reputation matters. I've already touched upon it, but I'm just going to say that keep putting your work in public. I think it really creates a whole narrative around who you are as a person. And I think that's really helpful. And you can only encourage people, you can only invite them in your story, but you can't guilt trip them that, hey, you need to donate to this. It doesn't work. I think positive emotions have higher chances of getting a positive action. Donation matching was a big leverage. So what happens is, so if someone is giving me, if I'm saying to my friends that, hey, if you give some money to it, I'm going to match to that donation. You are inspiring that person, not just by asking that, hey, give it to the cause. You're also showing your commitment to the cause. So it's actually leading by not preaching, but leading by action. So the two windows, day 2 and day 4, is when we had the highest donation matching. It was 17% on the day 2 and 15% on day 4. It really became a key motivator for people to chip in more. Because if I give 100, probably I'm going to get 117. And I think that was really a big message that got pushed out on day 2, especially. And it doesn't even have to be big matching percentage size, right? Like nobody is saying that I'm going to match 100%. In fact, for us, it was 5%, 5%, 2%, 5%. So whoever is a big ticket size donor, it could be 20,000 rupees, it could be 50,000 rupees, ask them not to donate directly, but actually to be an impact partner to match donations. And I think that's what happened. In the beginning, 5% donation matching was done by Milap's impact partner, and we caught on that trend. And then we, started asking people around us who would want to become more, our impact partners. So then we got more people. Like even this tiny 2%, this person ended up donating 23,000 rupees because the amount was so big when we raised it. So a small percentage donation matching could also really work, and multiple people coming together with small percent donation really is a strong leverage. Proactive updates to donors and beyond. I think we actively sent out communication on progress, any new highlight that happened in the process, any messages that people shared with us, any thoughts and reactions that we were feeling during the process, and I think we were overwhelmed. And this meant doing extreme amount of content generation while fundraising. So the 3 days, I think the team, I don't know how to thank them, but the team really pushed it. I think they were on calls, they were on text, they were on messages, and they were ideating, and they were creating, Canva posters or tiny videos. So it was just, and I think for all of that to happen as well, I think you need to have a very supportive environment where you can, make a lot of mistakes and also can be freely say that, hey, I can't do this, but can you do this, So I think thankfully the team really created that momentum. And when I'm saying team, I'm also including volunteers. We have a big group just together in that sense. So for us, updates went out every 2 hours on almost all social media channels: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp statuses. Oh my God, that they are really powerful. I know them now because I usually don't put WhatsApp statuses, but apparently in crowdfunding, it really got me a lot of conversations from people that I had not spoken in a long time. And I think it really helped. And again, not just for me, for the team as well. So we posted content in terms of videos, we posted content in terms of how people were talking to us, what our progress in the process of fundraising was. We also finally caught Dushyant on midnight after second day of success, because he had been leading the Twitter storm, and I think it was just important I just wanted him to meet the team, and the team really was excited to meet him. And I think that gave him even more conviction, I guess, for the next day. I mean, he's very amazing. Post-campaign conversations, I think for us, we've been very clear that we are going to send regular updates monthly or once in 2 months. to donors about progress of our organization and associated Sapne Walis. And I mean, this confidence just is rooted in the fact that we are not saying that everything is going to be fantastic and everything is going to pan out the way we have planned. But I think we're putting a lot of trust in people's ability to sympathize and understand that we are showing up with our honesty, and we're going to give as much as we can in the process, and whatever is the outcome, we'll deal with it together. So this town halls, by the way, is part of just putting yourself out there more often. Well, you have listened to me for very long. So this is the summary. I think if we were to summarize what really worked, I think do not underestimate the value of planning and structure. And I think that's where Anusha was our wizard. I think she is really fantastic in organizing things, and it really helped coordinate with her from, even when she was away from us, and just do things strategically. Like, it was a lot of madness, but I think there is a method to it. And I think just do planning properly, and positioning and deciding your tone really decides everything that you're going to put out. And I think the more confused you are about it, it's going to show. And I think that confusion keeps coming. If you keep changing the narrative, if you keep changing your stance, it shows in the what you're sending out. So I think spend a lot of time on being clear in your own thought process. I think it goes a long way, it delivers a long way. And yeah, crowdfunding is a sprint, it's not a marathon. I think in hindsight, if ever Sajhe launches another crowdfunding, we're not going to make a 2 months plan. I think we're going to make it max 2 weeks plan, because even if we don't reach our goal, we know that it's not. I think we're just going to focus on creating windows of high pace and just giving 200% in that condensed time. So seizing the momentum is very critical. Being fully present to respond to the moments when the right people and right time and the right actions happen. Just gonna make it all amazing, hopefully. And yeah, I think this is not related to fundraising, but yeah, in case we have new people who are getting to know about Sajhe for the first time and are interested in joining us in any capacity, these are few things that we are looking for: partnerships and volunteering places and hiring as well. We have 10 more seats to be filled by January 2021. We are focusing on young women in villages where higher education is just not possible. And right now, the first cohort is focused on Mahadalit women. So if you are an organization, or if you know of an organization working in this, please write to us. If you're a nonprofit, if you're a startup who might be interested in hiring graduates from us, we are hoping that these graduates will be fantastic. They would have managerial skills. That's our curriculum designed around it. So yeah, it will be just nice to even know your requirements. Even if you don't have a commitment to make around employment, you can just let us know what kind of positions are there in terms of senior, mid-level and entry-level associates, project associates, operations associates, and so on. Our curriculum development is on a skyrocket speed at the moment, and we are hiring someone who can work closely with the core team and just churning out a lot of our ideas into activities. And of course, we need help with volunteers in social media engagement and podcast planning and curriculum development. So with that, I'm going to take a breath and open this for questions if people are still here and listening.
Sorry, I think Arushi had to drop off. I'm not sure if she's been able to join.
So, okay, so I think we can just check it, right?
Yeah, but I can, so I think in general, there are a couple of questions around matching. People are like, how can you help explain how matching works? So maybe we can talk about it for a minute. And then.
Okay. So matching, Anusha, I'm taking that question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it. I'm happy to get questions for you and you can answer them.
Okay, sounds good. So we also have some questions that we didn't address. You have the list, right? Like the people who had put it in sign-up form. So we can also take it. So for matching, okay, so what is matching and how do you get it? So matching is, someone committing that, if you give me 100 rupees, if they're saying that I'm going to do 5% matching, if someone gives 100 rupees, they're going to add 5 on it. And how do you why this matching really matters? Because it actually excites other donors, other potential donors, to get more out of their buck, right? If someone is giving 100 rupees, and if they know that it is going to be more than that, it really excites people. So I think it could be 5% matching, it could be 10% matching, it could be 100% matching, it could be 50% matching. And there are many ways actually you would see matching. So for example, in big corporates, for example, companies give a certain amount, decide a certain amount, that up to 30,000, we are going to match your donation. So that means, let's say, and actually someone reached out to us for that we couldn't tap into it, but they said that, hey, I can get my company donate. So if we donate 30,000 to you, the company is going to donate 30,000, another 30,000, and we can do that. So matching comes in all different forms, in terms of percentages, in terms of absolute amount given by the corporate. And how do you get matching? Of course, if you have corporate connections, if you had office connections. Actually, this works really good in small offices, because in big corporates you do have CSR, so their money is already sort of decided where it has to go. But in smaller mid-sized companies or corporate, where CSR budget is not very high, but HR is excited about doing bringing in some social issues and awareness in their in their culture, you do end up getting good matching corpuses. So people, you can just reach out to our office. If you have HR connections, do reach out to them and ask that, hey, could there be a small fund for matching from your side? And it will really help us get more donors in our side. So for us, I think we asked, actually some people offered matching by themselves who were big ticket size donors, and they did 5%. So for us, it was an addition. So there are 3 people who gave 5%, and then 1% 2%. So that became 17% for the second day. And then similarly, there was one person who gave 5%, and another person gave 10%. So that became 15%. So big matching percentage is not relevant. Some matching and communicating about that matching is critical. I hope that answers some of your questions. Anusha, next question.
Sure. I think this is from the questions that we collected when people signed up for the session. I think this is around what were our biggest challenges, and what was our initial strategy before we received this response. Maybe Surbi, you can start, and maybe I can also add some.
Okay. I think looking back, it just doesn't seem that there were many challenges. I think we really got lucky in many senses. But if I were still to point it out, right, I think we didn't have a content ready. I think that was the biggest thing. I think the only content that was ready was that one video and one story that we were putting out. And I think when social media engagement goes high, the moment you get attention, you need to have content ready so that you can send it out very rapidly. And I think that is necessarily not a challenge, but I think it was a bandwidth issue that I think for 3-4 days, I think a couple of us were just completely sleep deprived. And I think we were still able to create content, but I think we could have done a better job in terms of thinking, in terms of retaining some of our donors, converting some big donors. But just because we didn't have the content ready, I think we lost on that train, I guess. I can't think of any big challenge as such, except, just being very aware that you could hit a slump. So I think second day when there was a big rise, I think Anusha and I were just like, okay, be ready that tomorrow we might not have this. And it's okay, we might have to stretch it for another, we might not have it before Diwali or something like this. But again, I wouldn't say that was a big challenge. I think it's just part of the process. Anusha, can you think of something that you identify as?
No, I think you basically hit the nail on the head. I think we prepared for the slump. We prepared for a slow progress, but we were just not ready for this real quick progress. I think the other thing which I kind of brought up in my section was I felt like, we didn't allocate enough time for creating that video. And I know it became a little bit of a hassle. That was like a blocker for us to launch the campaign. So which is why if you are planning to, make a video, please think about it early on. Keep enough time to make all the edits and iterate, because it actually takes time and it could become a pretty big blocker.
Yeah. And I think, of course, we ended up giving an hour-long presentation on it. And I know it seems like a really huge checklist, and in some ways it is, but I think it's also an exhaustive sort of, in some ways, it's like a long checklist. You can only hit, you might end up doing just few items of that checklist, but do them right. And I think, for example, in case of video, it just happened on the go. We were not planning to make a video, but then we realized that, hey, nobody's going to read the page, so you should have a 1-minute video. Okay, so if you have a 1-minute video, someone needs to conceptualize that video. And I think underplaying that storytelling abilities is, I think, what I ended up doing. I guess I think Anusha had to wait for me for very long. She made a draft, she made another draft, and then I had to sit and make 2 more drafts. So it was just knowing that you really need to have a mind space when you're getting into crowdfunding is very critical.
Yeah, I can go to the next question. I think this is also from from the session sign up. This is actually about the team. So the question is, what was the one thing that surprised you the most about your own team after the successful campaign? Any insights?
I love my team. I think, I'm going to talk what was my insight, and I think, Anusha, you should talk about what was yours. I think it's so important to see and trust people's strength. I think, and just focusing on that. I think, we have a pretty diverse skill set of people in here, and pretty diverse set of work experience. Like, we have, very young team, and some of them have just gotten out of college, and expecting them to do the same level of things that, let's say, Anusha or I are doing, it would be unreasonable. And I think if they are part of that group, you need to see for what they are and get really excited for their excitement. And I think it was so amazing to see how everyone was getting into that game. I think, I don't know, I think so my biggest learning about the Sajhe team is that everyone has a very unique strength, and I need to remember that. And I think I need to just make sure that when they hit a slump, you remind them of that strength. And I think everyone was very accommodative, and I think everyone just played along. So I think another thing that I realized, that everyone is very spontaneous. Nobody complained, they could have complained. I'm not against complaining. It's just that they didn't complain and they played along. Nehal, one of our volunteers, Arushi, core team member, Shalini, they worked until 12 in the night and I remember the second day we had reached a very insane amount, and I really wanted to put out a thank you video, and Nehal was really exhausted. She already had day 1 of her new job, and she was still sitting there, and she, coordinating with me on my nitpicky feedback on ki nahi, ye font size ye hoga and all of that. So I don't know, I think everyone was very spontaneous, and everyone, I don't know, resonated so well with the urgency of this funds. And everyone, I think, outdone themselves. All of us, I feel. I think the first day call ki nahi ho paega, every single person outdid themselves. So I don't know. I think with the right group of people, you feel very excited.
Yeah.
What about you, Anusha?
For me, the interesting thing was same thing. When we first did the call about how to raise money, people were like, I have no idea how to do this. And then 2 days later, people are like cold emailing celebrities, right? It's almost like you could see that transformation in 2 days. I think that was like something that I did not expect. So that was great. Like, everyone was trying things in their own way. Some people were able to talk to people that they know. Some people were more comfortable reaching out to acquaintances or celebrities. So it was just like, this is a lot of interesting things happening.
Yeah. I think the biggest insight is that for the first time, I think the culture of Sajhe's team got revealed. I think now I can point out what this culture looks like. Like, there are characteristics, and I can point out when someone doesn't fit in that culture. So I think, answer to whoever has asked this very beautiful question is, I think now we know what is Sajhe's culture. Like, we can articulate it.
Yep. So moving on to another question. Again, this is from the sign-up form. This is actually interesting. I know you especially talked a lot about your network, right? Like your existing, expanded, whatever network. But what if there are people that don't necessarily have that sound network? How should they think about crowdfunding?
I think it is definitely going to be very hard if you don't have network, I guess. But I think start from what you have. So start from your closest friends and family. And I think so this is how it's going to go. It's going to be an uphill task, right? So for me, I think what worked was I think in so many ways, I think I'm privileged to be part of, network of course, nonprofit world in India, and then UC Berkeley in the US, and IIT Delhi network. And I think these are big networks, and they do get you attention. And then there was network which was made because of what people know about me, right? In social media space. If you don't have any of this, and if you don't have any of big support foundation, I think start from even a tiny bit of foundation that you have. So even if you two friends that you have, and it doesn't even have to be friends, it could be mentors. I think mentors get really excited when they see their mentees grow. So I called my professors and I told them that, look, this is what's happening and you need to donate. And I think so mentors, friends, people whose work you admire, and people who make you comfortable to talk to. So even if you don't know them, but if you know of them and you feel that it'll be easier to talk to them, just 4 categories of people. And of course, cold emailing is always, you have it, right? Like identify people who are thinking about this cause, and the chances of them supporting you is decent enough, because if they have gone through a journey of exploration themselves, most likely they're going to respect your journey, right? I think I feel that way. I think there are so many people in nonprofit sector who mentor me so much, primarily because I think they might have gone through the same stuff when they were of my age, right? And so if you don't have a sound network, start with the one that you have and sit with them and keep pitching until they are convinced, because without network it's going to be really hard, unless I think the only antidote I see to network is fantastic storytelling. I think Sajhe's story and video are not spectacular, they're just fine, but you see some ads, like within 1 minute or 2 minutes there is an aha moment for you. So for example, I think that for Sajhe's marketing material there is no aha moment in that. Well, if you don't have network, then sit down and write a story which has a major aha moment, which can really click, and that click is what is going to invite you. Last thing that I think you should do, which we were planning to do actually, which we didn't do, is public pitching, what we are doing right now. In fact, Sajhe began that way. I had just put it out there that, hey, I have some ideas and I need to discuss them. I need some support. People, would you want to join? The thing that I have titled it as a startup dikhao party, that, I have some ideas and I really need to discuss. And on that call, whoever showed up, like the first call, 4 people showed up and 3 didn't know me at all. So just keep giving shots and creating new network, I guess. But yeah, I think your clarity of thought and your transparency of how much you know about your work and yourself is going to matter a lot.
Great. I'm looking at some questions from YouTube. So there's actually one question, which is, what are the key roles that you assigned to team members, and what are the roles you think are mandatory to have?
What did we do? I mean, very clear assignment was there between you and I, for sure, right?
Yeah, I think when it came to like the behind the scenes, like planning, I think it was probably just you and I that were involved. So it's almost like the team did not know anything about the launch till we actually launched. But I think once we launched, people kind of picked their own roles in a way, because some people were like really good at content creation, so they like kind of lean towards that. Some people were good at like talking, so they were like focusing on that. I think it's almost like people auto assign themselves to roles. But yeah, I don't know if you have more insight on this, Surbi.
I think the only thing that really made a good foundation was being very clear about some fundamental leading. So I think Anusha led the planning, and I think I keep telling her, she keeps underselling herself whenever she talks about this, that I think because I was so dependent on her leading this, it didn't take my mind space. Like, it would only take my mind space when I was sitting with that document. But I just knew that she's just going to do it well. And I think, so just respecting her lead and following her lead, like she would send me very specific instructions. So this needs to be reviewed, do it now, right? And you haven't done this, do this part, right? And I think respecting that clear leads wherever that is possible. So whoever is doing the planning and strategy, just let them have it, let them have their space, and they'll come to you. So all of us were available if she needed help, but that needs to come from her instead of you poking and making it, muddly, I guess. So I think for her, the role was planning and strategy. For my role was assigned just managing the whole thing, just um, making sure that everyone is part of this. I think that was my clear role. I think no team member or no volunteer who's willing to help us should be left out. So that was my key role, and of course, I think we all wore multiple hats as the situation demanded. And of course, I think once you identify one person's strengths, so for example, one volunteer was very good in creating Canva posters. And the moment we got to know that, then she became the go-to person for Canva posters because the really quick turnaround time was needed. Someone was very good in giving shout outs, so they became the person that, hey, you need to do this kind of shout outs more. Like Arushi, who's also on the call, she was really good at getting small influencers to share it, right? And then she's the person, so she and Gitika became the people getting small influencers on Instagram. Like that was their job, like do it well. But yeah, I think it also happened on the go. So I think the two fundamental thing was someone needs to take care of everyone's engagement, everyone's how they're feeling, how they are responding to that feeling. And I think someone like Anusha need to take care of planning and strategy and organizing, I guess.
Cool. Now flipping back to one of the sign-up questions is actually an interesting one. I know we talked a lot about what worked for us, but what do you think should absolutely be avoided?
Oh God. I mean, I think there's a lot of personal opinion in this. I mean, we are not talking here as, crowdfunding marketing professionals. I think as an individual, I think the messaging in nonprofit world is very much still around sympathy minting. And I think somewhere in the process of storytelling, we forget the dignity of the person for whom we are asking the money. And I think it seems then everyone has a very easy answer to it that, hey, this is what works and that's why we're selling it. Like that's what media sells you, right? Like when they talk about social entrepreneurs, they talk in sense that, oh my God, they're heroes. Nobody is a hero. Like everyone is doing what they're doing because they like it, right? Like, but that story sells. And we end up telling ourselves that there is no other way of telling that story. I want to resist that. I think there are more creative ways of getting people's attention without depriving someone of their dignity and without making yourself a hero. Just be honest to yourself and ask why you're doing what you're doing and what you see in this other person. So as long as you don't think yourself as a savior, probably that messaging is not going to come out. But if you think yourself as a savior and people you're working for or working with as this, if you don't see them as people and as problems, it's going to show in your messaging. And I think that is, if I'm part of any kind of fundraising, I would never do that kind of messaging because it doesn't inspire. I don't know what it does, but it doesn't inspire me, at least. Like I think and I'm not saying that every crowdfunding is going to have a very positive message. That's not what I'm saying. I know during COVID, for example, we needed so much urgent funds for just hunger, for basic transportation, right? Basic employment. And we're still struggling with that. And of course, there is going to be a lot of conversation around how difficult this is. But I think just push further. Who is making it difficult? What is our role in this, right? And can you think more robust storytelling around without taking something away from that person who you're gonna give one packet of food? So yeah, I think the savior mentality is something that I would say is a big no-no, and doing it alone might be a big no-no. I mean, unless you're doing a small amount of fundraising, that's fine. But I think you would get really exhausted if you were to pull it off just by yourself. And yeah, I think those are top two that comes to my mind. Oh, last one. I'm sorry. Last one.
Yeah,
not taking rejection personally. If someone says no for, if someone says no for giving money to you or supporting you for whatever reason, just don't hate them and don't hate yourself. Because it's not about you feeling or an intense emotion. It's about that is definitely going to stop you from asking from the next person. Just keep moving on. You don't have to spend a lot of time convincing everyone. So don't take rejections personally because it's a game. You have to. We got really rejected. That didn't show up here. There are places we really got rejected. Like grants have rejected us while our crowdfunding was going on. So Some rejections really hurt, but here we are.
No, that's
Sorry,
a
Anusha,
great
you were
point.
saying something.
No, I was just going to say that's a really good point.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are a couple more questions from YouTube. So
Okay.
one is, so can you share some tips about how you convince people of the intended outcome of your program?
Huh. Um, I think for let me list down the outcome here first, and then let's talk about. So for us, there are three clear things. One, what we need the money is one for skilling and employment of 15 Mahadalit girls. So that's first outcome. Second is we need to start. We've already started like the first Sapna center, or what we call skilling centers. That at every village level there are going to be various Sapna centers. It could be offline, it could be online, it could be residential, it could be day scholar. So we one setting up the first Sapna center, and the third is curriculum research. I think we've created one course. We have more ideas about what kind of courses can be created, and someone really smart need to come with us and just work with us on our ideas, right? So these were the three key things on which these funds are going to be spent. In terms of convincing, I don't know what worked for people. I mean, I think donors are best suited in answering that, what helped. But I think showing what all we got really helped. So, and I think there had to be some component of our past public sharing. So, for example, we put out information about whatever we are doing at Sajhe and document it and put it out there in the nonprofit world so that if another organization needs to use it, they can use it. So for example, curriculum, right? And if I say management curriculum or management skilling, it creates a vague picture in your brain, right? It creates a vague understanding in your brain. So listing it down clearly, like what would it mean? What kind of jobs would it mean? So on our Milap page, there are listed jobs, like what kind of jobs we think our graduates are going to be best suited for: facilitator roles, coordinator roles, project staff, project associates roles. And this is the curriculum snapshot that you have. And then I think another thing that also helped, that our key partner, one of our key partners, Digital Empowerment Foundation, Osama made an announcement that they are signing an MOU with us for hiring graduates from our program. So that was just like coming from from the other side, that hey, we want such people. So someone like Osama, who knows the sector well, who has spoken to us about the program, when he makes such a claim, it just increases the credibility. So I think our credibility mixed with people who are trusted with their opinions, their credibility combined, and some transparency and active communication, all of this together hopefully convinced people. I think so. That's why they gave us money.
I also think it's the content. I know, we haven't spent a lot of time talking about it, but the 4 drafts that we created, it was, basically going back and forth, trying to simplify, make sure the outcomes are very clear. So, for someone who's not familiar with our work, if they do read it, they should be able to get it right away. And I think that did go a long way.
So also it's 6:30. So I don't know how we are planning this, but should we set a upper limit for the call, or should we just keep going and keep talking?
There is 30 people watching right now. I think there are maybe like a couple more questions. So maybe we can just take that, and then after that we can probably close it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah.
There was one very interesting question from YouTube, which is, how do you think about the timing between 2 campaigns? Or, when is the time to like raise your second fundraiser?
I mean, it depends on one, your needs, and two, your network. If you have saturated your network, probably just wait it out until you have more channels of creating new network. And if you think you haven't saturated your first and second degree social circle, I think then you can, of course, launch as per your needs of budget and mind space for your team. But I think one of the things that we have been thinking is that probably we'll do annual crowdfunding, and we'll make it as a flag event, that this is our annual fundraiser, because I think there is a lot of value in getting people's like money from people. I mean, I'm sure we might get institutional money soon, but I think when you get validation from a crowd, I think it's a different kind of exhilaration and different kind of validation that you get, and it's a different kind of responsibility as well. I think my father reminded me this when I told him that, oh, we have got a 25 lakh, and he didn't focus on the money at all. And he said, well, there are 1,000 people looking at you, and make sure that you make it worthwhile. So I think just know when you can handle that kind of responsibility, because it's not just the money coming in, it's people getting associated with your organization and looking at you and rooting for you. And I think if you disappoint, so many people in one go, I think it'll be sad. So just think of input and output in that sense.
Yeah, and I think
What do
to
you
add to
think?
that, what you presented, Survi, like, is crowdfunding, is crowdfunding right for us? Is this the right time, right? So I think you should actually go back to that framework and evaluate if, is this the best way to raise money? Is this the right time?
Yeah.
And, if the
Yeah.
answer is yes, and of course, if you've not like exhausted your network and you've sort of delivered against all your promises made in the first campaign, then maybe it is the right time. But otherwise, I don't know. I don't think you should rush into your second campaign.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a good thing, because you pointed out we did close the campaign, right? I think, and many people advised us not to close the campaign. I think even like Milap said that don't close the campaign. You can stop campaigning, but let the money come in. And I think we were very clear that, we really need to deliver on certain things. And, money is not, it'll come around. Please only. But so I think that's how we decided that crowdfunding, this is it for us. Like, there's no more pushing beyond this. Like, it's important to, and then we eventually ended up redirecting potential donors to other campaigns, which were, which could use the support. So yeah, just being very aware about your positioning and needs is very critical.
Awesome. I don't see any new questions on YouTube, but there is one from our sign-up sheet. I think 3 or 4 people had asked about what does Sajhe's future plan look like. Do you want to quickly talk about that? And I think we can probably wrap it up right after.
Insane amount of work. That's what Sajhe's plan is. Like, when you get more money, you need to really work hard. No, I think in terms of concrete goals and concrete activities that are going on. So first year, we are experimenting 2 of our Sapna Center models. One is the residential model, and the second is a day scholar model. And we are in middle of, I think for one, the operations have already begun. For second one, the foundation is being completely laid down. We have identified our key partner. We have identified a key investor for that. And so first year, it's going to be getting 15 young women, preferably from Mahadalit communities, in a residential course, and 20 young women in your day scholar course. And in first year, we are, of course, testing out the management course work that we have created and getting them guaranteed jobs by the end of 1 year, but also designing a second course, which is already in the pipeline, so that we can start diversifying the kind of courses we are offering to more people. So yeah, right now, short term is hiring a solid core team member. And second is get our girls just arrived in the morning to Kanbadi, our first Sapna center, and they just so getting them settled, getting them started in a full swing in this course, the residential course. And December is going to be our setting up the day scholar center. So that's immediate short term. But yeah, long term is making sure that this 35 women get amazing jobs, and by the end of 1 year, we'll have more Sapna centers and more programs. So yeah, that's a plan. And not burn out in the process, like live. Make sure that, we don't lose ourselves in the process. So
awesome. I think that's basically all the questions, Survi. I also see the number of people watching go down. So I think it's probably the right time to wrap up. Any last words before we close this?
I don't know. I think one of the things that we didn't talk enough in our presentation is that how generous people have been. I think we were so focused on putting together strategies and insights that I think what really, really overwhelmed us was the different ways in people have been generous. And I think all you need is to ask and to be very clear about your conscience and intent, and trust people that they would want to help you too. And I think so, yeah, generosity of not just the donors, of course theirs, but also people who just covered us and protected us. Like, so many people made content for us, so many people revised, like, I can keep counting names. Sarit, Sandhya, they sat with me for so long and kept revising the draft, and then kept questioning every single person who did the counting with us. I think it was such a heartwarming experience. And And it matters so much, like, waking up to messages coming from, my female friends, and they were just so excited talking about, so we've hit so much, so we've hit so much. And I don't know, I think it's really, really nice. And then, Venkat stepping up and making sure that this kind of town hall happens. So I think it's just the kind of generosity, and, Rishabh and Rishabh Lalani, Pushpa from Guide Star, and Venkat coming together and just getting us this registrations and making us do this. I think, so I think people have been very generous with their attention. And I think we're very lucky in that sense. So those are my last words. And the team is really fantastic. I think I really love the team. That's it. That's it from me.
Awesome. Thank you everyone that joined us, and we hope to see you in our future town halls.
Yeah, you're gonna get an email. So we're gonna spam you once every 2 months, or once every month. We'll see. Anyway,
all right.
so okay then. That's
Thanks
a wrap, I
everyone.
guess.
Bye.
Bye.